Hey everybody, I'm Alika Lifty, and today we're going to make our Costa Rica Las Lajas Natural on the Kalita Wave. This is going to be a more non-traditional recipe. I had a lot of fun with this one. We're going to be using 30 grams of coffee, ground medium coarse, almost as coarse as you would grind for a Chemex. I'm using 450 grams of 200-degree Fahrenheit water. This recipe is really big, but it still drains pretty quickly. This Costa Rica wants to drain fast, and so I've manipulated this recipe to be able to extract enough flavor out of that coffee in that short amount of time and get a really balanced, really sweet cup. First things we're gonna need: a Kalita Wave 185 with paper filter, decanter, gram scale with timer, a gooseneck kettle, 30 grams of our Costa Rica Las Lajas. All right, first thing I'm gonna do is pre-wet my paper filter. I just like to pour straight in the middle of my Kalita, letting that water raise up, saturating all of those ridges, and preheating my brewer. Be sure to top off your kettle if you need to. Pouring straight in the middle helps me maintain the structure of the paper and also preheat this brewer really, really well. Especially with a lower heat recipe like this, that preheat is going to be really important for our overall sweetness. Be sure to dump out your preheat water. Dose your coffee. Shake your brewer flat. Tear your scale, set your timer to 0, and we're ready to go. Now, this recipe I've split into 4 different pours. It's like a riff on the traditional Tetsu Kasuya V60 method. I'm gonna let this water drain all the way through between each of these pulses. First, 60-gram bloom. I'm gonna start my timer. Start light in the middle. Work my way to the outside, pouring to 60 grams total. And I'm gonna let this rest for 45 seconds. 30 grams of coffee is a pretty large recipe for the Kalita, and so a longer bloom ensures that I degas all of this coffee. But I like this larger size, 30 grams, not only for sharing, but also because the more coffee I use, the more sweetness I can get out of this coffee. And it's a very sweet, very fruity coffee. At 45 seconds, I'm gonna pour a tight circle here in the middle, up to 180. Just in the middle, letting this water raise up. This is gonna speed up my flow rate. It's gonna highly agitate this brew bed. You should see things rotating and swirling. My next pour, as this water starts to drain through, around 145, 130, I'm gonna pour an even spiral pour up to 270. I'm gonna hit this next pour at 135. Drop in the middle. Now I'm evenly spiraling. And so this is going to reintroduce all my coffee grounds together, create a more uniform brew bed, and slow down my drain time. That heavy pour highlights acidity and sweetness, agitates, distributes heat throughout my brew bed, and now I'm slowing it back down. At 2 minutes, heavy pour here in the middle. Raising everything back up, speeding that flow rate back up. Pouring up to 360. This is reintroducing heat, trying to accentuate that complex acidity. My final pour, around 235, 240, is going to be an even spiral again. Again, slowing down that flow rate, redistributing heat, creating an even brew bed. spiral out. Remember, we're finishing off at 450. Like I said, this is a big recipe. It's really great for sharing between two people. This larger size gives us a lot of sweetness for this really fruity coffee. This recipe should drain in about 3.5 minutes. At that point, we've got the most balance out of this coffee. We're gonna taste dried cherry. We're gonna taste mango juice. There's this heavy raw honey sweetness. And there's a little bit of black tea. Here we go, 325. We're done. That brew bed now should finish really evenly. This coffee is extremely aromatic. If it drains too quick, it becomes kind of boozy. It's almost like cherry cordial, but it's not very sweet. And if this drains way too long, we get this really bitter, almost cherry cough syrup and this kind of tart lemongrass aspect to it. This Costa Rica Natural is a really amazing representation of a natural processed coffee. We get red fruit, we get mango. It's almost like a really approachable geisha. It's not quite as floral, but we get this cherry and this mango flavor. That is really enjoyable. Enjoy.